forth my sincere thanks to our management for accepting wholeheartedly to conduct this international virtual learning series. Can you hear, sir? Can you hear?
Yes, sir, it's clear. We can hear.
Anbu, sir, can you hear?
Yes, sir. Yes. Please, sir. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. It gives me great
Sir, voice breakdown, I think, sir.
our founder. Anbu, sir, can you hear?
Sir,
No, sir, the voice
breakdown,
is
sir.
breaking. Breakdown our voice.
Break ஆகுதா?
ஆமா இப்போ ஓகே.
ஆமா sir.
Okay. It gives me great pleasure to extend you all a very warm welcome on the behalf of the AKCP. With the blessing of Almighty, our founder, Kalvalal Devathirti Kalasalingam Ayya, with the support of our beloved chairman, Ilayavala Dr. K. Sridharan sir, I am here to deliver the welcome address for the today's
Hello, sir. Anbu, sir.
Yeah. Can you hear? Can you hear?
No, sir. Completely.
I am here to deliver the welcome address for the today's session on virtual learning, a new approach in pharmacy education, in association with the Indian Pharmaceutical Association South Tamil Nadu local branch, head office at Arulmigu Kalasalingam College of Pharmacy. Today I feel delighted to welcome our distinguished personality, veteran teacher, undisputed researcher, and honorable resource person, Professor Nuh Abdul Khan, Department of Clinical Pharmacy, King Khalid University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. To grace this occasion, it is a great honor to have with us this occasion. Thank you, sir, for kindly being the valuable part of this session. We are fully appreciate you for finding the time to be with us despite of your busy schedule. It is a great honor to have with us for this occasion. Sir, your prestigious presence is a great motivation and inspiration for our entire students community. Most welcome, Professor Dr. Nuh Abdul Khan. Welcome, sir. Most welcome you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Next, I welcome all the professors, faculty members, and my dear enthusiastic students for today's session. So I hope this session will be a good platform for the students to get a good knowledge. Dear students, kindly utilize this great opportunity to explore your knowledge. This is the first and foremost needed for your career. All the very best, my dear students. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you. Sir, please, sir, continue your session, sir. Please continue.
Thank you, sir. அனைவருக்கும் காலை வணக்கம். Good morning to all. I would like to thank in this opportunity to thank the organization of AKCP, Honorable Principal and the management and the staff members, all the professors and academicians who are online and the beloved students who are online for this today's session. Thanks for attending this session today, and I'm much more happy today. Much more happy to join with you all. Anbu sir. Okay. So it's a great pleasure for me to meet you, all of you today through online. The technology has developed and we are from different locations and different regions. We are meeting each other today. When I was decided to attend, when Dr. Venkateshwaran, the principal, he contacted me, communicated with me, and Anbu sir also communicated with me. Only one thing it came into my mind, the memories, what I had with AKCP. When I was a student in JKK Nataraja College of Pharmacy, I came to AKCP for the inter-college meet. I think if my memory is right, that session was Jomfar. It was an inter-college meet, happened in, I think, in 96 or 97.
97, sir, 1997.
Yeah, 97, I think, 96 or 97.
Jomfar.
Yeah, Jomfar. For that I came. Actually, I was a participant for Tamil Kavidai. I gave my name for Tamil Kavidai. But
third year B Farm.
Okay, but actually what happened at that time, there was a Anaragan Poti. From our college, there is nobody nominated. So immediately they said that someone we have to pick from our college. Our college is not there. They choose me. That's the only memory I recall. I was a participant for Tamil Kavidai, but at that time, due to my physics, there's my staff, my faculty member, my professor who came with us. He chose Khalas, no, you go there to the stage. I don't know. They are telling me biceps and triceps. I don't know. I was looking at those people, what they are doing. I was just imitating them.
Yes,
the judges are laughing at me.
Thanks for your remembrance.
So that's a memory. It came to my mind. It's a good thing. Once again, I got the platform in AKCP.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So I think we can start our session. And today's session will be on virtual learning, a new approach in pharmacy education. My session will be around, inshallah, for 40 to 45 minutes, and then we will be having our open discussion. And today's session, the outline of my topic will be new approaches in pharmacy education and why we need virtual pharmacy in pharmacy education, and how to achieve or how to establish the virtual pharmacy. And plus VAP, that is a virtual pharmacy, is a short form. What we gave, it's not officially, still it is not recognized as the short form abbreviation, but we gave from our university VIP as an educational tool. And the virtual learning, a practicing example, I will show you some example how to do it, and the take home message and discussion. This is the outline of today's presentation. And new approaches in pharmacy education. So in today's scenario, in today's pandemic situation, and in upcoming years, and being an academician, and we have to think in an innovative way. We should not go in the same direction or same pedagogy, what we used to say, Karpittal Muregal. Pedagogy means the Karpittal Muregal, the teaching, the methods or the teaching techniques. So innovative thinking in pharmacy education is required to the current situation or to the current trend. Why? Because the student needs something new, and the faculty members and the academicians, and we have to try some new approaches so that we can explore new ideas and we can communicate the new message. That is a transformation of knowledge from one generation to another generation. I mean from the faculty member to the students, from one generation to another generation. And we have to carry, or we have to transform the knowledge from one generation to another in the easiest way. And that too, it has to be having active learning models. That means the students should be engaged and they should learn more in an easy way in a short time period. So how to do those things? So that type of things has to be kept in mind. That's why we have to go for new approaches. The new teaching and learning methods in pharmacy field is in demand, but there are no lot of methodologies has not yet been developed. So we thought of developing that, and we got success. We succeeded in that method, and we implemented it successfully. Now this is our third year. We are stepping in the third year after developing this virtual pharmacy. So the virtual pharmacy is a new active learning model which covers all required skills for the pharmacy students. Why we designed this? When we had a problem for our students in Pharm D and B Pharm students, we had a lot of troubles in the field. We want to train them, but we don't have specific hospitals. Even though hospitals are there, there is no specific seats are not available. If they are ready to accept our students, the preceptors are not there. The training faculty member or a proper academician is not available. So our students are lacking in those things. So we want to cover up all these things, all the knowledge what they have to require, all the domain which what we want to cover as per our objective of our course, or as per the objective or the learning outcomes of our program. So we thought of new ideas. So I am one among the team member. So I have designed that curriculum along with our dean and other my colleagues. We have designed this virtual pharmacy curriculum. Pedagogy and what are the domains we can cover? What type of pedagogy? That is, what type of teaching methods we can do, and what are the domains we can cover in the virtual pharmacy. So the new pedagogy and educational approaches have to develop, which has to focus on. Whenever we go with new pedagogy, that is, pedagogy means the Karpittal Murai, the teaching methods. Whenever we go with the teaching method, and we should not forget about the domains, important domains. The domains, it should cover all the things what the students has to require. That is a critical thinking skill, which is the most important for the pharmacist and for the pharmacy students. And cognitive thinking skill, self-learning skills is the most important thing, because we can give some information to the students as academician, but we cannot forcefully, we cannot feed them everything. So that was the old method. Just they will infusing something on their ideas and their minds, and just they will mug up. So that type of skills is not required. So self-learning skills we want. They want to practice themselves. They have to learn themselves. The self-learning skills will support lifelong to the pharmacist. So they will learn much more better than with the experiences. And the better communication skills development. So the communication skills is the most important thing in the pharmacy career, because you are going to deal, the pharmacy students, we are going to deal, or the pharmacists, we are going to deal with the patients and with the physicians and with the other healthcare providers. So the communication is the most important thing, as a verbal communication or non-verbal communication, and we have to develop. So all this keeping in this mind. So when you are going for this pedagogy with the virtual pharmacy, and we have to cover all these type of four domains, and even 5 domains we can cover, that including the psychomotor skills we can develop. So the virtual pharmacy, what does it mean? How it goes? Virtual pharmacy means what? So when we are asking about virtual pharmacy, what does it mean, the virtual pharmacy? The virtual pharmacy is nothing but the definition, as per the definition. It's virtual means almost or nearly as described, but not completely or according to the strict definition. It's nearly described, okay, but existing but not real, or looks like real. So what does it mean? Virtual means something which looks like real, but it is not a real one. பார்க்கிறதுக்கு அதே மாதிரி இருக்கும், செட்டப் எல்லாம் அதே மாதிரி இருக்கும், but something which is not real. அது உண்மையானது இல்லை, but we can work on it. For example, in virtual pharmacy, what you used to do, the pharmacy setup will be there, how the pharmacy should have, how the pharmacy should look. You should be having the medicines there, you should having the shelves there, refrigerator, everything will be there. Everything will be there, but the medicines, actual medicine is not there. You will be having the empty boxes. The boxes with the containers will be there. The medicine name information will be there. The students has to only bring the boxes and to dispense, as if you have to think there is a medicine in that, because we cannot purchase the medicine for cost, or so we used to keep the empty boxes. So now you can understand what do you mean by virtual, which is there but it is not real. So that is the meaning of that. So really the medicines are not there, but the boxes will be there. So the virtual pharmacy, as per the definition, now you will be clear about that. Almost or nearly as described, but not completely or according to the strict definition. So this is the virtual pharmacy. Virtual means this is the one, and virtual pharmacy. So why we need the virtual pharmacy? why we want virtual pharmacy in pharmacy education. To encounter the demand in pharmacy practice and pharmacy education, we need this. As I told you in the introduction of my speech, we face the problems like what? Lack of outdoor space or infrastructure. For example, we want to train our students in a different model, or we want to train them in a particular domain. In that case, some hospitals, they don't have that space, or some private pharmacies or any pharmacy infrastructure, they doesn't have that space or they doesn't have that facilities. So in such a way, in such case, what we have to do? We cannot leave our students to lack or to lose that particular learning domain. So in such a case, if we develop our own pharmacy, virtual pharmacy, or a one place where we can design our own things. We can teach our students. We can give that experience to our students to get that information, or they will get that learning outcomes easily. And sometimes you will be having lack of trained clinical preceptors. When you are sending some student, for example, when we are sending our students to train somewhere else in a pharmacy or in a hospital, they will say, we will accept your student, but we don't have any trainer. So in that case, you have to send our faculty member there, and you have to adjust their teaching schedule and everything. If it is inside the campus itself, it's easy for the student to accessibility, and even the academician, they can go easily, the staff members can easily go, and that problem can be solved easily with the better outcome with the learning domains. And lack of case or patients. For example, when you want to train our students in case of cancer chemotherapy patients, or in case of infectious disease, HIV patients, in case of even sometimes nowadays it's a pandemic, corona cases, if you want to have a trial for them. Or they will not be finding much more cases, and there is a problem of exposure to the patients. You may be getting a chance to get infected. So in virtual cases, what happens? You can create a patient virtually. You can give the scenario exactly as the patient, and I can react as a patient, and I can give the same signs and symptoms. I can talk to you as a patient, and the student will get the exposure to that, and then he will get the information, and then they will find out how they can work out for that. So this is also there when there is a lack of cases or lack of patients are not available, or there is an ethical issue, having ethical issues where you cannot meet the patients. For example, the patient will refuse. No, I don't want to participate in that. So, but you need the exposure. When the students needs that particular information or the learning experience in the particular patient, there comes the ethical issues. So in order to bypass the ethical issue, in order to avoid the ethical issues, we can do that. So these are the possibilities why we need the virtual pharmacy, and distance and location is another thing. If you want to take some particular specialization in one hospital, I don't know what is the nearest town for you, nearby Sankaran Koil. Krishan Koil, I think, isn't it, for your location? So nearby that, if any hospital, if is having, maybe you have to travel for 50 kilometers or 35 kilometers. So you have to dedicatedly, you have to supply the transportation, you have to make the safety for the students. So in this case, we can avoid that also. So all these things kept in mind, we had the same issues. We faced all these issues: lack of outdoor space and infrastructure, lack of trained and clinical preceptors, lack of case or patients, and having ethical issues in communicating with the patients or having the exposure with the patients. And the distance and location is another issue for us. Is it okay, sir? My voice is going clearly? Anbu, sir? Okay. Thank you. So how to achieve this? So when we have these problems, how to achieve this or how to establish this? We can do this through curriculum changes or curriculum updates, or through institutional academic decisions, or through assessment methods. So there are the three possibilities how to do this virtual education or virtual pharmacy, how we can develop, either through curriculum changes, but I think it is difficult for us because we are based under the university curriculum. We cannot change this curriculum, but we can update. In near future, in any other board meetings or any other syndicate meetings, you can propose this and you can make the changes in the future curriculum to introduce a new teaching methodology or new teaching pedagogy for our pharmacy students. And then through institutional academic decisions. For example, from AKCP itself, you can make a decision to set up a virtual pharmacy and to train your students according to that. So based on that, you can go for a new assessment method with your students, how we are going to assess your students. So all these three are interlinked, but the first one, it takes some time, but the next two things we can implement it easily within the institutions, we can do that. That is through institutional academic decision. Like we want to set up a pharmacy, virtual pharmacy, where we can train the students as a clinical exposure and plus dispensing exposure. No need to go for another pharmacy or any other place, so they can have their experience here. But hands-on skills, if they want to go for another 6 months training as a compulsory to complete as an academic requirement, they can go. But here you can have your own pharmacy in your college, and then we can train the students according to the learning outcomes. So virtual pharmacy as an educational model. So how we can do that? Best educational tool for the B.Pharm and the PharmD students. Why? It helps in transition from academic setting to the clinical setting or clinical exposure or to the real-time exposure practice with the hands-on skills. So this one is, this model is effective for the final year students, the graduates. I mean, in case of B.Pharm, it will be for the 4th year, final year, and for PharmD, it will be in the pre-internship. Even in internship, you can use it. In the pre-internship, it will be much more helpful for the PharmD students in the 5th year. That will be much more helpful for them to be exposure to the from the academic setting to the clinical setting. That will be much more helpful in this virtual pharmacy model. So I am very much more happy and to announce that KKU, the King Khalid University, is a pioneer for VIP in King Khalid in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Among the 28 academic institutions in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, no other institution is having the virtual pharmacy as an educational tool except the College of Pharmacy at King Khalid University under the Ministry of Education. So our dean has accepted this proposal, and he is the one who initiated this, and all credits goes to him. And we designed everything and he facilitated everything. The decision making is the most important thing. He took this decision and he facilitated all the infrastructure and other things to communicating with the university administration. It was a very good, great successful in our university. So how it is an educational tool, how we can use it? Virtual pharmacy, how we can use the virtual pharmacy. In real-time practice components like what we can do, patient profile review, medication error detection, and dispensing of drugs under special circumstances and patient counseling. When you are in the final year, when you are going to go the final year, you have to have a patient exposure. Either in case of outpatient or in case of inpatient, you must have an exposure for both B.Pharm and for the PharmD students. So the patient profile review, the students has to make a review, the patient profile, how the patient profile is there, what are the availabilities are there, what are the details you can get it from the patient. We used to call it as SOAP, subjective, objective assessment and plan. So what the subjective and objective is there, what the patient profile says, what is his age, what is his comorbidity, what are the other clinical findings are available with him, and what are the drug interactions, what are the dose has to be changed, what are the dose frequency has to be adjusted, and what are the medicines he is taking, why his clinical condition is not improved, and what are the things we can do. So next part is the medication error detection. So where is the medication error? Maybe according to the diagnosis, the physician has given the proper treatment or not. Even he given as proper treatment, if the disease is not controlled, we have to identify what is the reason for that. Why it is not controlled? Either maybe the drug is wrong, the proper selection of drug is not done, or the classification of the drug is wrong, or the dose is wrong, or there is a drug-drug interaction which is not giving the particular outcome in the particular patient, or there is an adverse drug reaction has been found. So all these things comes under the medication error detection. So you have to go through the patient profile, and then you have to go for the medication error detection and dispensing of drug under special circumstances. That means how you are going to dispense for a normal patient, for a pediatric patients, with different formulations. For example, syrup, how to calculate the dose because it is a liquid conversion, and then tablets and rectal preparations, aerosol preparations, insulin, how to calculate the insulin dose, how to use the insulin pens, how to use the insulin syringe, how to dispose it. For example, how to store the medications and how to dispose the medicines if it is expired. All these things, it has to be under the dispensing. And then comes to the patient counseling. In patient counseling, you have to make every detail about the patient, and you have to explain about yourself, why the medicines has been prescribed for him, what are his queries, and we have to answer for his queries, and we have to clarify the doubt, and we have to explain why this medicine is before food, why this medicine is after food, and what are the food you have to avoid, what are the major changes he has to do in his lifestyle modification, how to control the disease. For example, in chronic patients, diabetes patients, we have to advise them with the diet control, diet plan, and physical exercise, how to do the physical exercise, and most importantly, SMBG. That is, SMBG means self-monitoring blood glucose. How to monitor the blood glucose? If you monitor the blood glucose, then the patient can easily control his diabetes. And how we can do that? What are the procedures? How to educate him? So in patient counseling, it is not only giving him, it is a session of educating the patient. We are going to discuss with them and educate the caregivers. For example, old age people, we are going to educate the caregiver who is with them, supportive person, son, daughter, or anyone else who is caretaker. We are going to educate them. If in case of children, we are going to educate the parents. So all these things we are trained our students in all these 4 domains. So here it comes the self-learning, critical thinking, and communication. So we are going to cover all the domains in this one model. So I will show you some examples of that in later on coming slides. So this patient profile, I think I have given the description about this. I think you'll be clear with this. So by this virtual pharmacy model, what are the curriculum or what are the syllabus we can cover? So we can cover community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, and internship. So the community pharmacy we can cover in both for PharmD and for the BPharm students we can cover. Hospital pharmacy we can cover for both BPharm. Mostly BPharm will be much more helpful in this. Hospital pharmacy, both inpatient and outpatient, and PharmD also they can get. And internship, PharmD is much more involved in this internship. They'll be having much more experience and better outcome when we are using this virtual pharmacy as a tool. That's it. We can cover community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, and internship. So these are the major domains when the students are in the final year. So the major syllabus or the major curriculum that you want to cover, these 3 curriculum is the most important part, which is going to help them in the field. So after graduation, they want to work out on these 3 places as an internship. As an intern, you have to work hospital pharmacy, as inpatient or outpatient, as a community pharmacy in their private pharmacies. So we can cover all these 3 areas with this one model we can cover. So virtual learning and practicing example, how we are going to use it, how we are going to apply our virtual learning model as a practicing example, and what is the major outcome of this, what is the major core idea of having this virtual learning, increases the knowledge and confidence to the students. What happens here when they get the knowledge? When you are going for a debate, or when you are going to somewhere else, for example, want to go for a fight with someone else. We must know how to do that. We must have that confidence, how to deal with that. For example, you are going for a debate, you must have the information. We should have that information with us. How we are going to defend ourselves. The knowledge is the power. That knowledge, when you have within you, you will get the confidence. Definitely will get the confidence. When you are strong in pharmacology, when you are strong in therapeutics, when you are strong in the dispensing skills, then you are a perfect pharmacist. So when you have that knowledge, you'll be having that confidence. So this model, what it gives in virtual learning, so you are exposed to the different scenarios, you are gaining the knowledge, and plus you are getting the confidence slowly, because in one year time period or in one semester, you are going to expose or you are going to get trained with your faculty member, not in the field itself. Here there is someone to correct you. There you are going to learn by yourself. Here you are going to correct. We are going to give you the correction. We are going to train you why you should not do that. You will have that explanation. So it increases the knowledge and confidence to the students. And plus the second thing is that higher order complex thinking. When we are going for a thinking, so our brain, how it works. The higher order thinking capability is there, but the medical students and dental students and pharmacy students, they are using the higher order complex thinking much more. So this has to be initiated. This level, higher order complex thinking, because we are going to deal with the patients. So when you are dealing with the patients, you have to think about the dose calculations and about drug interactions, dose frequency, and other comorbid disease and conditions. So which you are using with higher order complex thinking skills, that is going to be initiated, that will be much more improved. And cognitive skills are much improved here, because cognitive thinking means செயலாற்றும். We can say you think and you have to react. செயல்திறன். This will improve more cognitive skills. When you work on the platform, when you have that particular exposure to the cases, or when you are exposing to the particular scenario, or for example, this model we can use it in case of even for there is a problem in a compatibility. So a faculty member is giving some incompatible solution, you have to make it as a compatible. So then you can also use it. Or when you want to dispense some medicines with the interaction, there you can use it. The patient is having a difficulty, there you have to solve the issue, there you can use your cognitive skills. So by this way, the cognitive skills are much improved with the students when you are using this type of model. And another thing, teacher and learner engaging model. It not only engages the students, even for the faculty member. As an academician, I have to prepare myself. I have to update myself. I have to read more. I have to get updates regarding the particular case, regarding the particular new therapy, regarding the new treatment guidelines. I have to update myself. So when you are training your students or teaching your students, what happens? The student is to ask some doubts. Even I could not think about it. My student will teach me at that spot. He will raise me a critical question. I doesn't have an answer. So I have to go through and I have to update myself and I have to explain to my student. Either the student may give me some option or he may give me some new answer with that. So these are the things are possible, how we are going to learn from that. So both the teacher and learner are engaged in this model. So that is the one more opportunity what we are having in this virtual pharmacy. So now I am going to give you an example. So how we are going to train our students in the virtual pharmacy. You can see this is the one scenario that one patient has been given to them. This is how we are going to train our students. This is the patient profile. One patient profile has been given to the student. So you can read the patient, Mr. HT, male, gender is male, 67 years, 88 kg, 170 centimeters in height, and chief complaint and history of present illness is having fever, headache, frequent urination, and joint pain. And past medical history for him is hypertension for 15 years, type 2 diabetes, and dyslipidemia. And the temperature is 38.3, somewhat higher. Blood pressure is 170 over 95 millimeter per mercury. Respiratory rate is 34 breaths. Patterning lab results. What are the lab results? You have urea is 85 milligram per deciliter. Serum creatinine is 5.4. Urine analysis. Its albumin is 2 plus albumin, and is HbA1c. This is for the blood glucose monitoring. Glycated hemoglobin value, HbA1c 10.6%. Triglycerides is 320. LDL is 160. And HDL is 35 milligram per deciliter. So now when we are giving this case and the past medical list what he was taking before, diclofenac 50 milligram BID, captopril 25 milligram BID, olmesartan 20 milligram BID, and metformin 500 milligram BID. And now the new prescription for the patient is diclofenac BID, captopril TID, olmesartan increase the dose BID, metformin 500 milligram TID, and glimepiride 3 milligram TID. So this case has been given to the student. Now the student has to go through the case and he has to find out what is the patient detail and what are the problems with the patient, and particularly he has to go through these lab values. And now this patient, what are the complications are here? What are the comorbidities? Hypertension, diabetes, and dyslipidemia. And so with that prolonged period of 15 years of hypertension and type 2 diabetes, he got now renal failure. So serum creatinine is high, 5.4. Now this student has to calculate the creatinine clearance rate, and then he has to identify what is the stage of renal failure, number one. And then according to that, and you have to adjust the dose of the other medicines which is not applicable for the renal failure. You have to pick the medicines, you have to isolate. which is not allowed in the renal failure. Remove it. You have to adjust the dose. And then what are the treatment are missing for triglycerides and high dyslipidemia? There is no treatment is available. So you have to write it. And then you have to correct the medicines. What are the mistakes are here in this prescribed medication? So can any final year students can judge what is the problem here in the prescribed medication? Can anyone? Okay, just note down this. We will have in a discussion. So these are the medicines has been given. They have to identify the mistake. There is a mistake here. What are the mistakes? They have to identify. So we are creating a case scenario for the faculty. As a faculty member, I will create a case with multiple tasks with the critical order thinking. The student has to think and come up with a solution. And he has to, after doing all these things, and he has to go for the counseling session also. So let me move for the next part, what he has to do. What are the tasks and resources what you have to give it to the student? So by this case, this is an example. This case is an example. With that, what are the tasks the student is going to cover in a virtual learning? Identify the patient issue, number one. Identify the medication error. Then you have to go for the dose calculation. And he has to go for the disease calculation. That is the renal failure is there or not, liver failure is there or not. And according to the age, what are the comorbidities are there. So all these things, dose calculation. Drug information assistance. If the student is saying that this medicine is not appropriate for this patient. So now the faculty member, me, I am going to act as a faculty member, second as a physician, and third as a patient. So I am going to make 3 roles. One as a academician, as a faculty member when I am giving a case. Second, I am going to react for the response from the student as a physician. And he is going to raise the issue. Sir, your prescription is wrong. Okay, I will ask what is the wrong in my prescription. The student has to say there is a medication mistake. Why? So what is the proper medicine? And he will say that no, this is not the one. The another one is the proper medicine. Okay, right. Give me the information. That is the drug information assistant. Okay, good enough. You are good pharmacist. So just tell me what is the new thing. But I need the references. So how that process is going to start. So these are the things the student has to do. And then what are the resources we are going to give it to the students? Hospital information system, that is HIS. One platform will be there, online platform. The cases will be done electronically. And the student will enter the patient number and the prescription number in the system. And immediately that will show up for them. The digitally, he can view in the computer itself. And then he will print the prescription and he will read with the prescription with the patient scenario. Go for the lab values and they have to go for the calculations. Do all these things and then he can use free Wi-Fi in our campus. And Micromedex is allowed for them subscription with a free subscription for the students. Password will be given. They can use it in their mobile also, mobile phones. And we are providing the virtual pharmacy and lab and we are dedicating one faculty member for the group of students. So these are the resources what we are given by the college and what are the tasks we have to do. So now we are moving to the medication error reporting, how to do it. So we have designed a form. This form is from the Ministry of Health in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What they are using in the field, exactly what they are going to practice in future. For example, when they are going as a pharmacist, what they are going to use or what they are going to practice, the same practice we are going to use it in the lab, in the college. So they will be having the same exposure. They are trained here with the same scenario or in the same idea what they are going to face in the future when they are going to be appointed as a pharmacist or when they are going to the field as a pharmacist. So we are training for them from here itself, from the college itself. The same form will be given to them and they have to fill the form. They have to write all the mistakes and they have to write their recommendation. They have to cause us what are the reasons, what are the recommendations. The student has to write the recommendation. The student have to complete the form with their proper recommendations and with the proper identifying the error, and they have to fill. It's a 2 pages form and they have to fill it and then they have to sign and they have to submit to the faculty member. When you are giving me to the faculty, to the physician, I am acting as a physician. When they are giving me as a physician, I will ask them, okay, tell me what is the proper drug information. So there is a drug information form and I will write the question. So what is the proper treatment for particular case? And I will give the background information here that the patient is having this much age and what is the comorbid disease and everything. I will write down and I will submit to the student. And the same day, all this activity will be done in the same day. And so this one he will fill. After completing the medication error report, the physician or the faculty will ask about the evidence or proper drug information. So we are going to ask the drug information. Give me the proper information and how you are saying this is wrong. My prescription is wrong. Support me with your documentation. So the student has to support this form and then he has to give. So now we are going to train him in the critical thinking and self-learning. So now here he is going to improve the knowledge and improve the skill. Student have to complete their tasks. That is a dose card. He has to fill the form with the references. You can see here the references. The student has to write the answer here and what are the other information, that is the peculiar information. For example, the patient is taking some narrow therapeutic index medicine, narrow therapeutic drug. For example, digoxin, phenytoin, warfarin. What are the precautions I have to follow? The student has to write down here. So this is a narrow therapeutic window drug. You have to follow therapeutic monitoring. You have to monitor the drug levels and you have to follow the INR ratio. You have to follow the digoxin toxicity. So this important information you have to mention here. And then he has to write down the references from where he got this information. For example, from Micromedics, from Medscape, from drugs.com, lexi.com, from where he got this information and he has to support his documentation. So then what other things he has to do? Student has to complete their task, dose calculation, medication error reporting, drug information, there is this form and counseling to the patient. The next part is the counseling within 3 hours. Only 3 hours will be given to the student to complete, to analyze and to go through the web resources and what are the resources he or she has to complete it and they have to submit. The last part is the counseling. When the counseling part comes, I will act as a faculty member, will act as a patient. For example, anyone is coming and asking the prescription given to him is a female and he will come and ask me the name of the female. Yes, he will ask, yes, I am female. Yes. Are you pregnant or not? So he will ask, I have to reply. If I will act as an old man, I will act as a youngster. So when he is dispensing my medicine to me, I will ask a critical question to him. Why you should not take this medicine in the morning? So student has to answer. And then he will ask me some question. So it is a completely discussion session or the counseling session, real scenario will go on. I will ask him, if I miss the dose, what I have to do? You have to tell me how to if you are skipping a dose or if you are missing a dose, when to take the dose and how to store the medicines and how to use it. For example, he is giving me the pen, insulin pen, and how to use the needle and how to inject the insulin. All this technique the student has to counsel. He has to show how to use the pen, how to titrate the dose and everything he has to do it in the counseling session. Plus the dose calculation in the ml, how to reconstitute a powder. For example, some syrups are coming as a powder, antibiotics. So how to reconstitute it, adding the water and how to shake it and how to prepare the solution and then how many ml they have to take, how to store that, and all these things has to be coming into the counseling session. So including all these activities, the student has to do it in 3 hours. Usually you can think that 3 hours is a lot of time, but it is not a lot of time for them. In for first 3 labs, they will struggle a lot. From 4th and 5th lab, they will be getting some speed. When they are coming to the end of the semester, they will finish within 1.5 hours. So see, this is the difference. In the beginning, they want 4.5 hours to complete a task. Gradually, the time reduces because they get the knowledge, they get the confidence, they are getting the self-learning skills. So they are much more enough to deal with the cases and they are getting the confidence. That is the advantages of the virtual learning. How you are going to engage your student in a new pedagogy. The virtual learning, it gives them exposure, much more exposure in different scenarios, different type of patients, with different type of risks in the comorbidities. The comorbidity which you cannot imagine in the field, you can create it here. So one patient will not be having a multiple complication. You can make a polypharmacy, you can dump a lot of medications, you can give them multiple complications and comorbidity here to train them, to expose them to the different scenario. We can do that in the virtual learning. So what are the infrastructure requirements? For example, if you want to do this, how we can do this? What are the things that are required? Separate hall or a room for a 30 to 40 square feet with capacity of 10 to 15 working stations. It's enough. Hospital information software. That means if you have, okay. If it doesn't have, it is not going to affect. But here, what you have to do, you have to prepare the cases and a printout, and you have to distribute the cases as a printout. We used to do that. Sometimes there is a network issue. Sometimes system will hang. In that case, we will be having a plan B. Plan A with the software. Plan B with the paperwork. Once the software is not working, immediately print out the case and give it to the students. So the student will read the case with the lab values and everything as I given is the example. They will read and then you have to come up with this. And medicine display racks we want, 1 or 2 or 3 racks or shelves, tablet counting machines, label printers and everything you want, narcotic locker to show them how the narcotic lockers, narcotic medicines should be there, controlled medicines and psychiatric medicines should be there, multimedia projector with the screen and other things, stuff as stationaries and other things, whatever you want, you can request this, just like a refrigerator and other things. So these are the requirements if you want to develop a virtual pharmacy in your institution. Let me show our virtual pharmacy. This is our virtual pharmacy. We are having the shelves here to keep some medicines. These are the racks what we have. Medicines this is in the beginning of the setup. We are keeping the boxes there, empty boxes, all our boxes. These are the systems what we have. This is the center is the barcode reader and the printer. Here we had a tablet counting machines and other things. We have the stuff here. Up to we have a small one, we can accommodate up to 15 students in one batch. So per day we are going to take them 30 students in 2 different batches, the morning batch and the evening batch. We are going to take them. So this is how it is arranged. You can see now. This is arrangement. We are having the shelves and medicines are arranged here. It just look like a pharmacy. And they will read the prescriptions and other things stuff in the computer screens and then they will come up here. And this is our working station, this part. This is the table where we will sit and they will come for the counseling session. And what are the advantages in virtual pharmacy? Student critical thinking and self-learning skills will improve much more. This is a very big advantage. No harm for the patient. For example, if you are doing a mistake, you give a wrong medicine to the patient. In real scenario, that is a very harm for the patient. But here, you are only showing me the medicine, and which are showing me the medicine in the boxes, and are telling to me, if you are giving me a wrong medicine, if this happens, the students will bring wrong medicine. At that time, or wrong formulation. For the pediatric, they will bring tablets. Instead of rectal, they will bring oral. So this type of mistakes will happen. So no harm for the patient. Even you do the mistakes, you learn from the mistakes. So that is the experience. The experience is nothing but what you are going to learn from your mistakes. So no harm for the patient. That is a very big advantage. You are not going to harm any patient really. You are going to expose yourself to a virtual scenario and you are going to learn that. Lack of fear or nervousness. So you are going to deal with your faculty member as a staff, as a faculty, as a patient. So time being for 1 or 2 or 3 labs, you will be having this fear or nervousness. After that, you are used for that and you don't have that nervousness. So the communication is easy and your critical or higher order thinking skills are much more improved. And no ethical issues. The important part is no ethical issue. You are not going to deal with any patient and the patient is not going to raise any issues or any complaints. So no ethical issues. No shortage of training sites because you have your own site to train your train your students. You have enough faculty member to train your students. So you doesn't need to worry about the training site or the faculty members. No shortage for preceptors. So if you are sending your student to different hospitals, you have to arrange the training staff, faculty and staff members in the particular hospital. Now here, 1 or 2 from your own institution has been dedicated, so they are going to take care of your students. And then is it for evaluation and assessment by the faculty member? So the evaluation and assessment will be done exactly what we want, and assessment will be done properly without any bias. Disadvantages, psychologically we or the student will be thinking about of on-site ward rounds. There is sir, we cannot get that experience or that pride where we are going to the hospital wearing the white coat and seeing the patients and then discussing with the nurses and the doctors, that we are missing. That you are going to do it when you are having the entire exposure, entire knowledge, and when you are ready with your tools, that means the knowledge and skills, then you can go. In the last 6 months or in the last 1 year, you are going to work on that. So this is the preparatory level before you are going to the field. So psychologically, we can think that you are missing it, but the knowledge wise and the skill wise, as per the curriculum wise and as per the pedagogy and as per the domain wise, you are exposed to all the required domains wherever you want to take. And cost in establishing the virtual pharmacy lab is another one disadvantage. We need some more money for purchasing the systems and for the chairs and the building infrastructure. If you are going for software, then it will cost you more. If you are not purchasing a software, then it is okay. It is going to cut off your money for you. And you can design your own software also if it is possible. If not, you can use a virtual cases as a printout, as I told you. You can use it as a printout also. You can print the cases and give it to the students. And then if you are purchasing the software, this is license and renewal. We had this problem because in this initial stage, the company was giving for a low price and then they increase the price, the higher price, bidding price. So this is one of the disadvantages. The company may renewing the license, they may ask for a lot of money. So this is another one disadvantage in that. So if you have your own designed form by yourself, the software, then it will be better. If you're having, you have to make a license for, not for, at least you have to take a license for minimum for 5 years. So that you can run with your students without any disturbances for 5 years. That will help you. Coming to the take home message, never stop learning because life never stopped teaching us. Because teaching is, learning is a process, continuous process. Learning, we can say, even the student can teach me, I can teach the students, even a patient can teach us. So the learning is a process, continuous process. You can learn from any places. So when we are using this learning process, you must think about the pedagogy, smart pedagogy, the smart teaching skills. We want a smart thinking. We want a smart plan. We want a smart handling it. We want a smart work with the new pedagogy that is going to help us to improve the knowledge and the skills in this. So the human brain thinks very much more smart in critical situation for new solutions. Definitely, for example, now we are in a pandemic situation. Our brain is thinking how to continue the learning, how to continue it. So we choose online teaching. For online teaching, we are using different platforms, Zoom, Google Meet. We are having this one. We are using Microsoft Teams, and there are so many softwares are there. They are developed. We are using it, and we are online in touch together. All of us, we are in touch today, and we are dealing. I am from Saudi Arabia. You are in India, and in different parts from Tamil Nadu, we are together in online. So when there is a critical situation, the human brain thinks smart in critical situation. That critical thinking skill has to be utilized properly by making a blend with the pedagogy, the new pedagogy in the pharmacy education. That is the most important thing in the virtual learning. So in the virtual learning, you are going to use the critical thinking skills by giving a difficult scenario for the student so that he will think and he will learn and he will come up with a solution. So that is the self-learning skill which is going to develop in the student, which is going to improve the confidence. When he is bringing with a correct answer, when he is solving the issue, when he is solving the problem of a patient, when he feels, the patient will feel himself, the pride and the proud and confidence. And the faculty member will be more happy that he has today given or delivered the content to the students in an effective way to train with the students. The students are much more happy and they are getting the psychological satisfaction, and plus me as a faculty member, I'm getting the psychological satisfaction that I delivered the content to my students. I trained my student perfectly. My students are happy and me also I will be happy. So this is the thing. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. This is by Jim Rohn. So the quoting is by Jim Rohn. Your life does not get better by chances. It gets better by change. You have to change. We have to bring changes in the pedagogy. We have to bring changes in the new teaching methods. We have to think in the innovative thinking in the pharmacy education. As an academician, it is our responsibility to think about it. As a student, it's your responsibility to raise something new ideas, to think about innovative thinking, to develop new skills. So it's a teamwork. The student community and the faculty community is together in the academic field. That is the most important thing. Join hands together as a team. We have to be together for the better improvement. So that's the take-home message today. By this, I'm ending my session. We can go for the discussion now. So I hope I have delivered the content to the point, and also I stick to the time also. by God's grace, Alhamdulillah. So I completed on time. So we'll having the 10 to 15 minutes discussion. If you have the queries, please, Anbu sir, please help me. And if there is any queries.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation. Sir, I have a question regarding the virtual pharmacy.
Yes, sir.
So now currently we are working in a setup which was attached to a hospital. So like as most of the institutions, Tamil Nadu, family institutions, they won't have own hospital setup.
Yes.
They are having a tie-up with government hospitals. They are working along with them.
Okay.
So here we have some difficulty in assessing patient records. So how it is possible to have it in a virtual pharmacy?
So you know, in our actually in Tamil Nadu, in our India, we are having some tie-up with the hospitals, and we are taking the students there, and we are getting the exposure. Sometimes that's why virtual pharmacy is going to help us. There you cannot have such exposure. There you cannot whatever you want to learn, whatever you want to learn, or whatever I want to teach my student, when I am not getting that exposure. See, in such a case only, virtual pharmacy, virtual learning is going to help us. So you have to develop a virtual pharmacy in your institution itself, a small lab, just like a lab. You can have a place where you can have some racks. You can get some empty boxes, even from your home, from your. The students can bring empty boxes from their home. For example, parents are using nowadays. Most of the people are diabetics in home. The empty boxes they can collect, or they can go and ask the private pharmacies. The empty boxes they can collect, or in the hospitals they can take the help from them. To bring the empty boxes, and we can collect, and we can keep it as a virtual pharmacy there, and you can set up a virtual pharmacy. There you can develop the cases. So this is, we need an infrastructure inside the college. The institution has to allot a small room, and where there we need some racks and computer systems if it is possible. If there is no computer system, one computer with one printer is enough to train them, because the faculty member has to prepare the cases, print it out, and give it to them. So by this way, you can have that exposure to learn it. But if you are having the table counting machine, you can have that exposure with the tablet counting. If you are having the printer, you can print by label by yourself. So all this exposure will be given. But the core idea, you can get the core idea with this minimum infrastructure facility. A lab with the seating capacity of 20 patients, 20 students or 25 students, a lab capacity, and with one computer and one printer with one faculty member. This is enough. You have to generate the cases. The only thing is that we have to generate the case. Virtual cases has to be generated. That is the only one thing which is an alternative, instead of where you are not getting the exposure in the hospital, where you are not having that experience in the hospital. What are the experience what you are missing in the hospital, that you can cover up in the virtual learning, virtual pharmacy. You can do that. You can create your cases. You can create the new learning platform, whatever you want, you can design by yourself if you have a place or platform. If it's possible, if this is incorporated in the new curriculum in the near future by the university itself, that will be a great achievement in the pharmacy education that will help them. So this type of things can be achieved. I hope I cleared your query.
Yes, sir.
It's clear?
Still some doubts are there, sir.
Yes, sir. Please,
like
please.
here that history has been has to be developed by the lecturer himself, or we have to collect it from the patient record, sir.
Which ones are the cases?
Yeah, that medication history, as you shown, sir, like KFUT also.
You can bring it from the patients from the hospital also. You can copy down, and you have to prepare it. And you know, when you are copying the record from the patient, there is ethical issues comes. It's a patient data. You are going to take it out of the hospital, so that is an ethical issue. If tomorrow the patient claims my data has been taken out and that has been used without my permission, and both the people, both the hospital and you are involved in the ethical issue. For that reason only, you are going to create a case by yourself. You can take the information, you can read the case as experience, you can go and read the cases. The same thing, you can change the name of the patient. But you don't need to don't photocopy the same thing. Take the idea and change the name of the patient. For example, I am putting HJ. Patient name is HJ. Who is HJ? We don't know. There is no name of HJ, alphabetical. Maybe we can make it as DYZ. Patient, the name is DYZ, and this is the age and this is the scenario. So it doesn't mean the name is not a problem for us. The major thing is the age factor, gender, and other things we want. So we can create the case by our own, that is better, because when you are creating the case by your own, so you can put lot of mistakes. So when I am creating, for example, in virtual learning, virtual pharmacy, I am creating the case. All the cases were created by me. So for every semester, I used to create every session around 15 to 20 cases I used to create. So these cases, when you are creating the new cases, what happens? You can design a new case with lot of mistakes, with lot of medication errors, so that the critical thinking skills will be developed. You will think and your student will think. So that is the most important thing. When you go for the real scenario, something is missing in that particular case. For example, I gave the case today. I want to go to that case. I will show you that case. So in this case, I have created all these issues. This type of issues will not be coming to in real scenario. Maybe there, but not in all the cases. HbA1c 10.6 with this much triglycerides with serum creatinine.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
There is an answer for that case in the chat box by Raghavendran Ted from D.
Okay, good.
So can you link that with that case, sir? Like he
Yes,
told,
sure.
diclofenac
Yes, sure.
and olmesartan at the time, it have an interaction with diclofenac to decrease the action of olmesartan.
What is that, sir? Can you repeat,
So there
please?
is an incompatibility between diclofenac and olmesartan. He is
Yes,
telling.
very good. Yes, very good, very good.
Because
Yes, he's right.
olmesartan, so diclofenac will reduce the activity of olmesartan.
Yes.
And he told olmesartan is anti-anginal. It is used as antihypertensive. When it was administered along with diclofenac, which may lead to the renal perfusion rate.
Yes.
So there may be chance of chronic kidney diseases.
Yes,
so
he's right.
there is a
He's right.
possibility
Exactly.
of getting renal failure or renal dysfunction.
Very good, very good.
Answered by Mr. Raghavendra, third from this.
Yeah, very good. He's right. Excellent answer. But he missed some other things. I will explain. Olmesartan is a once daily dose. It is not a BT dose. Along with that, and we are using both captopril and olmesartan, which is not good for the patient, because already he took captopril. So he has to remove the captopril, and you have to either go with olmesartan. And plus here, as per the guidelines, one drug is missing here. Either we have to add an diuretic. Diclofenac is contraindicated in renal failure. We have to remove this diclofenac because this is the one which causes, as per the statement of the student, he is right for the renal failure. And plus, we have to remove this diclofenac, and we have to go for alternative for the joint pain. And then we have to remove the captopril. Olmesartan 40 mg once daily plus hydrochlorothiazide has to be added. And another thing is that glimepiride 3 mg TID is the maximum dose. It is exceeding the dose. Maximum 6 mg we can give per day. It is 9 mg, 3 mg TID. It is 9 mg. It's high dose. We have to reduce it for the glimepiride. So up to 8 mg we can go. I think 6 to 8 mg we can go, but not up to more than 9 mg we cannot go. So that is also another issue. Whatever the student he thought and he gave the answer is excellently correct. He's exactly right. But few part he missed. This is the part how he missing. And one more thing for the triglycerides. For dyslipidemia there is no medicine. So we have to choose a medicine for the dyslipidemia. Once the HbA1c is high, 10.6, we have to add insulin for the patient to control, bring it to the control, or we have to add one more drug therapy along with metformin and sulfonylureas. We have to go for one more classification to control the sugar level, HbA1c level.
Sir, in that I have a question. Like in the symptoms,
Yes,
you have told there is a frequent urination. The addition of diuretic may increase the frequency more, na, sir?
No. Here the frequent urination is because of uncontrolled diabetes. The patient is feeling frequent urination because of he is having diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes. So when you control the diabetes, and plus here you can see the patient is having blood pressure more high. So as per the guidelines, you have to go for dual therapy. Well, because olmesartan plus either you have to go for a diuretic, AC inhibitor, or ARB with one diuretic, or with one calcium channel blocker you have to go. So you have to go with the diuretic. So this one frequent urination is because of high glucose level in the blood, that is hyperglycemia due to diabetes. So once you control this with the other treatment, this urination will not come, only the diuretic effect will be there. Then it is not harm for the patient. Clear, sir?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? So I have a question as from clinical pharmacy sector.
Okay.
So
Yes.
you have been here in India, and I have saw a profile like you have worked in Saudi government services also.
Yeah.
Sir, what are the clinical pharmacy practices has been practiced over there, sir? Because mostly you are following US based practices over there. So how the clinical pharmacy practices in Saudi is different from India? So if our students, those who have completed a degree or a PhD, if they want to pursue career, and what are the things they require, and what are the areas they should focus?
Here in clinical pharmacy practice, for example, for PharmD concern, pharmacists, they are working as the same as inpatient pharmacists and outpatient pharmacists. They are working in the pharmacy, and in community pharmacy also they are working. As for the concern of PharmD students, they are exactly working as a clinical pharmacist in the wards, in the different wards. For example, they will be trained in the wards. For example, in the inpatient medications. For example, general ward. For example, the medical ward, pediatric ward, ICU, and CCU. And in chemotherapy also they are appointed. They have to work and they have to go and see the cases every day, and they have to go with the ward rounds with the physicians, and they have to sit for the discussion and correct the doses. This is actually what their job is done in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So this is their job. They have to do this, and they are doing it already now. Our students are doing the same. When it comes for the job purpose, if you want to come abroad to Saudi Arabia, and you have to clear a licensing exam, which you call it as SPLE, Saudi Pharmaceutical Licensing Exam. That exam you have to clear. It is conducted by the Saudi Council for Health Specialties. That exam you have to clear with 3 chances will be given to you. You have to clear it. So for doing that exam, you can do it online, but again, you should have a sponsor for that. That means sponsor means you should have an employer to give you a job. With that job identity, with the job license, then you have to go for the exam. This exam you have to clear, then only you will be getting a license for a practicing pharmacist. Either you can work only in a clinic, that is in the community pharmacy. For hospital job, now it is reserved only for the Saudi nationalities. It's not for everyone else. In community pharmacy, only one option is there. In hospital pharmacies, certain hospitals, they are hiring the foreigners. But maximum in government sector, there is no opportunities for the foreigners, except in the community pharmacy. Only the chance for the foreigners to come and work here.
Thank you, sir. So for licensing exams, they have to come to Saudi Arabia, or recently I saw some of the advertisement like MOH exams, like it can be written in Kerala and Mumbai, like that I have seen, sir. It was similar to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, 3 to 4 centers are in India. I think in Delhi, Bangalore, and Kerala, Trivandrum, I think. Delhi is there, one center is there, Bangalore and Bombay, and Trivandrum one center is. 4 centers are available. You can attend from there.
Okay, so
you can have that clearance. Yeah, you can clear that.
Okay, sir. So does clinical pharmacists have any prescribing rights in Saudi Arabia, sir?
No, so far no.
Okay, so in most of the developed countries, they told the doctor's name is for their prescription, right? Something they have heard. So that's why I want to confirm that, sir. Whether you have heard anything like that, sir.
Still,
clinical pharmacists can prescribe any medication, or they can involve in patient care, primary patient care. What is your opinion about that, sir?
No, still, clinical pharmacists, they are not allowed to prescribe any medication. They can involve in patient care, primary patient care. What is your opinion about that, sir? Still, clinical pharmacists, they can prescribe any medication. They can involve in patient care, primary patient care. What is your opinion about that, sir? Sir, actually, regarding the OTCs, OTC medication we can prescribe. So that you can do it as a clinical pharmacist. I think that is allowed. You can use it. Even in Saudi Arabia, they are practicing it. So they can use it. In the community pharmacy, OTC prescription you can use. You can give the prescription as a OTC drugs only. For other drugs, we cannot do. We cannot make it. But now we are trying to, in Saudi Arabia, they are trying to fix for the counseling clinics inside the pharmacy itself. The patient counseling, you can be as a counselor, as a PharmD clinical pharmacist. Officially, they are going to bring this one in near future. That proposal is working on. That is going on. As for my opinion, writing a prescription is not an easy job. To be honest, we must have to train in that. We cannot say that immediately what we think, our student and our community, what we are thinking, we should have that right to go for that. We have to do that. So to write a prescription, you need to know for the diagnosis properly. We have to have that exposure or the experience to diagnose the case. Without diagnosis the case, you cannot come to a conclusion what type of prescription you have to give. So this one will come into practice. So for that reason, still there needs some curriculum changes, some curriculum development has to be done in the PharmD curriculum. So if once that changes has been done and that has been approved, then we can go for that. So time being, we can stick only to the counseling sessions, and OTCs we can go. And for antibiotic prescription, we can have that chance for antibiotic prescribing. Other things, I think, I don't think so it is advisable or a wise decision to take the prescribing in our hand as a clinical pharmacist once we did the PharmD. So for that, you have to need a training. For example, you see US, they are very well trained and their curriculum is different and their practicing is different. So according to it depends on the country's curriculum development and academic settings. So we cannot say that America is doing we want to do. So you are not practicing as Americans. You are not having that particular resources as Americans have. We are not having that infrastructure what they are having. So we are taking the advantages. We are seeing only the positive thing from there. They are prescribing. Why we should not prescribe? Where you are exposed, we are not exposed. We are not having that learning skills. We are not having that particular exposure to our students. So in my personal opinion, we cannot climb this at present situation, but we can climb for OTCs, counseling sessions, and for antibiotics. This is my opinion.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. There is a question from again from Mr. Raghavendran from D.
Yeah.
Yeah, the clinical pharmacist can suggest dosage during the surgery time, and they can stay along with the physician.
During the surgery, I don't think so. They will allow you in the theater because what you are going to do there as a pharmacist? Inside the theater, what you are going to assist them? We don't have any role there assisting. If you want to adjust the dose calculation, you can discuss with the anesthetist, you can discuss with the surgeon before preparing the patient for the surgery. You can do that. But inside the surgery room, the operation theater, we doesn't have any role there. What you are going to do there? I think it is not ethical as a pharmacist to enter into the surgery room.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So in clinical pharmacy, we studied a lot of terms like prescription auditing, prescription reviewing, something like that, sir. But when it was coming to the Indian pharmacy context, it was clearly said that prescription is order from physician, like that. So they are at the high command and we have to obey or follow their instruction. So if you want to bring changes in India, what are the things should be necessary as a knowledge part? So.
As a knowledge part, when our students are ready to, when we know that there is a mistake in the prescription, when there is a direct drug-drug interaction, how can I do that mistake? When I know there is a mistake is in front of me, how can I dispense the drug which is having a potential drug interaction? Or where there is a contraindication, the prescription, okay, we agree, they are the high command. When he is writing a diagnosis of, I had that experience, personally I had that experience. Female patient is writing prostatitis. There is no prostate gland in female. And he is writing prostatitis, and he is giving the medicine for that. I cannot dispense. And the patient is pregnant, giving ciprofloxacin, a contraindicated medicine. I cannot dispense. I cannot close all my sense, and I can close all these things, and I will go with your command that it is going to make harm for the patient. No, I cannot do that. So where we have certain rules as per the professional ethics, we have that ethics. What we can do, we cannot change the prescription, but we can bring it to the notice to the physician. We can say, sir, your prescription is having this, which is contraindicated, sir. Please, sir, you try to change your prescription. This is our part. We cannot change it. We cannot overwrite it, but we have the right to bring the mistake into the notification of the concerned physician. Sir, your medication selection is wrong. There is a drug-drug interaction, or there is a drug and food interaction with the patient, and where we can go for an alternative, that we can discuss. A healthy discussion with the physician that will improve the scenario, that we can do it. And moreover, Pharmacy Council of India and from the Medical Council of India has to incorporate together, work together to solve this type of issues, because there is no professional breach. There should not be there. We have to respect each and every profession. Doctors are the high command. We should respect them. Even though we are low, we have our professional responsibilities. That responsibility should be reserved for us, and we should not cross the limitations. We should not say that I know about the drugs more. No, whatever the professional ethics, what we have to follow that ethics. My ethics is that I should not cross the border. I should inform the physician that there is a mistake in your prescription. You have to change it. That is my right, because the patient safety is the most important thing for the physician and for the doctor, for the pharmacist, and for the nurses. Our major aim is the patient safety. When something is not going up with the patient safety, there you can interfere and you can bring it to the notification of the physician to correct his prescription. I hope I answered, sir.
Yes, sir. But I want to share some experiences, sir. Like
yes.
So in India, if you are going to physician, pediatrician for the treatment of our children, like even the first time visit itself, he will write cefixime or some high-end antibiotics, sir. So
Okay.
that was the one thing. So pharmacists can do anything in there, sir. Second thing, some of the doses are anti-diabetic drugs, it may be mixer and it may be sustained release action. The patient complaining that I'm having some hypoglycemic effect, low sugar feeling like that. He will tell, okay, break down the tablet and have it off, like those conditions. And third one is sometimes they are distributing that Nimesulide tablets to children to control the uncontrolled fever. So like those conditions, if you are telling to the physicians also, they are telling, I know the condition, do what does it, like that, something like comments we have received from the physician. So what can we do during this situation? Like
So
one
this
is
is,
handling a dosage form, like sustained release cannot be broken, but we saw a lot of physicians are practicing still now. Like if the patient complaining about hyperglycemia, they told you reduce a tablet half and take as it is. It may have metformin, glimepiride, something else, some different doses. So during the time, how we can encounter those things?
See, this is the attitude issue. This is the attitude of the physician, that he do not accept the mistake and he do not correct himself. This is the attitude issue. But actually, they have to accept it and they have to do it. That is the professional ethics and that is the professionalism what they have to follow. But if they are not doing it, what we can do, we can advise the patient not to do that, or we can suggest the physician to go for normal film-coated tablets. There is a film-coated tablet, they break, no issue. We have to educate them, that's it. So this is sustained release, sir. There's a difference between sustained release and this one. The preparation is different and we have to educate the physician. That is our part, our job. We have to make him clear that this is the thing. If they are not going to learn, and then you have to raise this type of issues to the higher authorities. What are the higher authorities there in India? I'm not sure about in practice. So this has to be raised there. So that is the only solution. where you can find out a solution for that. So this type of things, it is a completely attitude issue. As far as wherever I worked with some Indian doctors who are working, I have worked in Ministry of Health. I have worked with a lot of Indian doctors. They appreciate this type of things when we tell them, when we say they want to learn more, they want to discuss, and even many more nationalities, Egyptians, Syrians, and so many Sudanese doctors. When we say, they used to listen to us. Very few they reject. Very few doctors only they used to reject. No, I know everything. In such a case, we have a law here. We have a system here in Saudi Arabia. We can complain. We can report it. We can raise it to the Pharmacy and Therapeutic Committee in the hospital itself. The committee will sit. The committee will go for inquiry, and the physician has to answer for that. So all these things are possible in case the law should be there. There is a law. When there is a law, then the action will be there. But what is the law is in India? I don't know. What type of law is there? I don't know. So the attitude is the major issue. They have to change their attitude, and the physician has to rethink about it. And maybe he's not having awareness, lack of awareness about the different mode of preparations what we are using from the pharmaceutical companies. Maybe he's not aware about that. Maybe he doesn't know what is sustained release, what is controlled release, what is entry coated. Maybe he doesn't know. That is the reason.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Sir, one final question. Like you have told about VIP tools has been implemented in your institution.
Yeah.
So it has been implemented during this COVID period, or you have planned this before that, sir?
No, we planned it in 2018. Second semester we planned and we implemented it.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Welcome, sir.
Sir, any other questions?
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Really, we had a wonderful presentation and informative session, sir. Can you hear?
Yes, sir, but it is slightly breaking. Your voice is breaking. Hello?
Sir, voice break, sir. Voice kekla, sir.
Sir, Abdul Khan, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. On behalf of our management, I hereby express my wholehearted thanks to you and your esteemed university for giving such an informative and wonderful presentation, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity to be in front of you with the memories of Jomfar. I'm very happy in HKCP today. It was a very good discussion session also. A lot of things we discussed today. That is a potential things which we discussed today. It has to be implemented in near future. We hope for the great things in near future, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, sir. I'm very happy today to be with you, sir.
Another one more request, doctor.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
If you have, let us know, doctor. Let us know. Kindly refer any of your friends or colleagues who have guide or support in our future webinars.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I will update you, sir. No problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Take care.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Anbu, sir, can we conclude?
Please, sir. Please.
Okay, sir. So by this way, I will take this opportunity to thank the organization and other for all the facilitators to giving me this opportunity. And thanks for the students being with me and for the good discussion and for the staff members who are there today online. And thank you so much for being with me today. And thank you so much. And I would like to leave the session. Thank you so much. See you again in
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Take care, sir.
Okay, sir. Bye, sir.
Bye, bye.